Royal Melbourne Hospital last year. And he still remembers all of the patients he's lost.
There's not a day, not an evening, not a night that goes by when I don't think of the patients that have not been treated successfully. And unfortunately, with the nature of this tumour, the outcome is virtually inevitable.
10 years ago, one of the brains operated on by Professor K was my late husband, Greg. But back then, we used to call him Prof.
I found some old letters that Greg had written about when he first met you. Prof first looked at the brain scans, then began some light banter with me. He had a deep obsession over the Hawks and we enjoyed some verbal sparring over how much of a dud club they were. The Prof said, "All right, you've got a brain tumour and we need to get it out or you'll die." I sat stunned for a minute. The transition from Hawthorn to an operation to avoid death seemed a little quick. Surely some thinking music or polite conversation was needed. But that was the Prof, blunt and to the point. And I don't know whether it was the plastic brain on the table, the well-lit and tidy room, or the banter on AFL, but I knew right then and there that this was the guy for me. And do you remember the first time you met Greg?
And I remember him vividly. I remember his extraordinary courage. I never ceased to be amazed by the courage of the people that I treat. People say doctors have to have courage, they've got to be bold. It's not the doctors that have got the courage, it's the patients.
While there aren't a lot of good stories, Professor has worked with a small number of patients whose cancer isn't terminal. Jamila Rizvi is one of those. She met Prof when she was diagnosed with a 1 in 2 million benign brain tumour.
I remember his hands because I think I had this stereotype in my head that a surgeon's hands would be like a piano player's. And Prof is the opposite. He's got like a tradie's hands, but they are so steady.
Prof removed most of Jamila's tumour, but less than a year later, her vision began to blur. Professor K told her the tumour was growing again, but this time aggressively.
Despite the fact my second brain surgery was far more dangerous, I mean, they cut my head from here right down to my ear. I had 67 staples in my head when I woke up. Despite all of that, I actually went into it calmer than I did the first one.
Jamila calls herself one of the lucky ones, because despite the tumour causing vision loss and disability, she knows the outcome could have been much worse.
A lesser surgeon would have meant that I was at least blind, if not dead. Prof himself mentioned how complex and difficult that surgery was and that it was far more complex than he had expected it to be.
But I think people very quickly realise that they've got a fantastic person in their corner.
Kate Drummond worked at the coalface with Prof for 23 years. And last year, she stepped into the top neurosurgery job he retired from. Like the Prof, Kate still thinks about patients she's lost.
And what do you use, what strength do you draw on to get back in there and get back in the operating theatre the next day?
Well, there's someone else who needs you. You know, yes, you had a bad day yesterday, learn from it, but it's not the next patient's fault that you had a bad day yesterday. Get up and do the best today for them.
Kate was also there at Greg's side when the Prof operated on his brain with an awake craniotomy more than a decade ago.
But for Prof, when he wanted to do an awake surgery, it was my job to come in and do the talking bit.
When he spoke about you, he said Kate lowered herself to face-to-face level, regressed to a little child needing reassurance as the Prof started brain stimulation. I'm not sure how calm I would have been if it were anyone else than Kate with me. The way she said things was simple, confident and easy to digest.
Greg was a bit scared, so, you know, we held hands and chatted and we got through it.
I still to this day don't understand how he lay there awake whilst someone operated on his brain. It's just, for me, it's unfathomable. But I loved when I read the humour that was involved, him trying to find you a date while you were there, while he was there being operated on.
That was Prof. He said to Greg, did he know any nice, you know, young men? And Greg said, well, what's her demographic? And Prof said it's getting wider all the time.
How do you feel hearing someone post-surgery write about you being that to them in surgery, you being there as their comfort that entire time.
You know, to make what is very frightening to be a little bit better. It's always nice to know that you've been helpful to someone.
People like Kate Drummond and Andrew Kay dedicate their careers to helping people, but the payoff can often mean a sacrifice in their own lives.
And I know some doctors who unfortunately go through either divorces or they don't have family, and I often marvel at them that they can actually do it. I can't see how I could do it without an extraordinarily supportive wife of over 43 years. And a son who perhaps has been even more difficult for, because I don't know that I was frankly the best father.
What would you have done differently though, Prof, given what is needed to be a surgeon and the commitment required? How could you do it differently?
Well, actually, I don't think I could. It's in your genes. You either do it or you don't do it. But I never forget that it's my immediate family that has had to, whose lives have not been, as good as what they could have been if I had been more, had more time at home or more time with them.
So how do you say thank you to someone like Professor Kay?
It is very difficult to put into words how grateful I am to the person who saved my life. It's a kind of gratitude that it's like being grateful to your mum for creating you. So I think all I can say to the Prof is thank you, and you have given me what will be a lifetime more of life, and I promise to use it well. I won't throw it away.
Well, Prof, I'm not sure that I've ever had the chance to say to you, to your face, thank you for everything you did for Greg, for me, and for my family. And we're sad that you've retired, but thank you, I guess, for the gift that you've given so many people over the years. And I know you're an incredibly humble man and you would hate all the praise, but you certainly deserve it. And yeah, we'll forever be grateful. And I'm so, I'm so glad that you were the one to walk with us side by side on that journey. So thank you.
That's very kind of you to say that. I deeply appreciate. Carrie, I really deeply appreciate your words. You need to understand that. I'm not a person who shows emotion easily.
Well, hopefully in your lifetime, Prof, we can find some real hope. It may even be a cure.
An amazing man.
That's what a hero looks like, a real hero looks like. Like someone that can, in the face of an apparent futility, just show up day after day, knowing that they're doing something that very few people can make that contribution, and they can do it, and that is life-changing, even when it doesn't work out the way that he would like, that is an invaluable contribution.
Oh, the relationship too with the patient, I saw that, for Greg, Prof was his everything. Yeah. He was his man to help him, and, there's just a lot on them. There's a lot of expectation. Greg was incredibly brave, and I think he couldn't have done it without Prof by his side as well.
And it's people like that we're trying to help tonight. That's the thing about it. Not just people who are at the coalface doing the surgery, the research is everything that will change what Prof or the next Prof does in the future. That's what this is all about.